What's up, everybody, and welcome into the H&M Trucking Podcast. I am your host, Marcus. Thank you so much for being here today, hanging out with me and my sweet H&M Trucking hat. You know, I haven't talked about this hat in a while, but it is a very popular hat around these parts. I've heard whispers in the past that we might even have one to give away. I don't know for sure. I'm not the one that sets that stuff up, but I do know that we are going to be doing some giveaways soon here on the podcast, and I cannot divulge to you exactly what, but free stuff always makes everybody happy, right? Makes me happy. I know it. The other day I was walking downtown Eugene. Somebody had a sample of like this chocolate thing. I took it. I ate it. It was not as advertised. It didn't taste very good. Had a weird taste to it. Things are legal in Eugene that are not legal other places in the country, and, well, that story has a finite ending. It wasn't good, but maybe just, think about the things that you take from strangers. There is that adage, you never take candy from a stranger. I'll be honest with you, I didn't have this guy pegged as a stranger. He looked friendly, even looked a little bit familiar. Maybe I met him back in college. That would make sense based on what he gave me. All right. I'm down a rabbit hole already, and we haven't even started this episode yet. We are talking about communication on this episode, and maybe what we can take there from my little minute-long rambling is that sometimes communication is fuzzy. Sometimes we don't always say exactly what we mean. Sometimes we bury the lead a little bit, and we focus on finite details that don't matter. We're here to address all of that stuff today. I've got a great roundtable coming up with Brenda Hampton, Tim Gray. We've got two drivers along with Arvin Knox Jr., and we will also be talking to, I want to make sure and not butcher the name, Tony Bertholf. I had to get that last name in front of me or else I was going to screw it up. So we're having a roundtable with those four. We're going to talk about communication from the driver's perspective, from the office perspective. It's going to be great. Denny has a Big Rig Cafe, a Bill's Big Rig Cafe coming up for you. A little bit of a recipe later that you can learn something from and make in the cab of your truck. We'll also get a safety update and some traffic and weather from Denny as well. And then coming up later in the episode, we've got a really cool thing to share with you. I'm not even going to try to dance around it because I don't want to give it away, but Denny found this, and it's really cool, and it has to do with truck driving, so don't worry, we'll get to that. Also, some breaking news coming up a little bit later on in the episode. And what else do we have? Well, we got some new drivers, and we're going to welcome them all right here. The round of applause is good. I like the round of applause. It's cool, but the party horns for me just bring it home so much more. So let's say welcome to the party, Daniel Guerrero from Show Low, Arizona. He's a van OTR driver. See how much more fun that is? Jason Gilbert, he's a hopper OTR driver from Marietta, Oklahoma. I was trying to layer party horns there, and I accidentally mixed in Eve's button. It's all right. They all sit next to each other. Cedric Smith, van OTR driver from Birmingham, Alabama. I'm guessing Cedric is an Alabama Crimson Tide fan. I'll say roll Tide for you, Cedric, just because we're welcoming you to the team, but everybody knows it's Go Ducks on this podcast. And if you don't know that, yeah, I'm an Oregon Duck graduate, season ticket holder for the football team. We'll talk about it in the fall. Finally, last but not least, we've got Robert Sniffan. He's a van OTR driver from South Daytona, Florida. Welcome to the party that is the H&M Trucking Podcast. Daniel, Jason, Cedric, and Robert, glad to have you on board, and welcome to the company. We'll look forward to maybe getting in touch with you and getting you on this very podcast sometime in the future. As for now, we're going to turn the page. We're going to welcome in Brenda, Tim, Tony, and Arvin as we talk communication right here on the H&M Trucking Podcast. Is Eve's button again, just for fun.
From Omaha, Nebraska, to whatever lane you're driving, this is the H&M Trucking Podcast with your host, Marcus Bridges.
Well, this month, we're talking about work zones and work zone safety. So again, research your route, take a detour if you can and avoid it. Pay attention, slow down, move into the open lane. Don't be that guy forcing your way in. And, at the end of it anyway, keep your distance. Pay close attention to road workers and flaggers. These guys, they'll hang their ass right out in the road. I don't know how they do it. I'd have heart attacks, but they do. They're so comfortable. You got to watch out for them. Be careful. Be aware of passenger vehicles, drivers around you. They might not know commercial vehicles take a longer. You know this. They're idiots out there. All they care about is themselves. If there's a little space, they're going to squeeze in it. So just be careful. Watch out because you got blind spots and they might be trying to get around you. Rear end crashes are more common in work zones. So watch out for that. Obey the speeds, avoid distances, slow down in time, maintain that extra space between your vehicle and the one in front of you at all times, and watch out for the four-wheelers. They're idiots. We know it. Be careful out there, guys. Be safe. We want you home.
Next up here on the H&M Trucking Podcast, I'm very excited, Denny, because we have a bunch of people joining us. In fact, this is the most people that we've ever had on the show at the same time at once. So bear with me here because things could go off the rails or things could be really great. I'm not really sure.
Can we raise our hand when we want to speak? How are we going to figure this out?
Please raise your hand, Denny. You're the only one I can see, so if you raise your hand, that's going to work out perfect. Let's welcome our guests to the show. First off, joining us, coming back for yet another appearance, we welcome Brenda Hampton. Brenda, really glad to have you here. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, guys.
I've also got Tim Gray on the line for his first real appearance. I think we had you on, Tim, for our Thanksgiving episode. It was a real short one, but ready for this big one now here. Thanks for being here. I've also got driver Arvin Knox Jr. on the line. Arvin, thank you for being here today. Of course. And last but certainly not least, I've got H&M driver Tony Bertholf on the line. Tony, thank you for being here, my friend.
No problem.
Well, now that we've got all the introductions out of the way, let's focus on what we're talking about here today. We want to, at H&M Trucking, put a premium on communication. Obviously, with a bunch of drivers out on the road all the time, I think Brenda and Tim here would agree, and also Arvin and Tony, that communication is very important. And not only that, but good and proper communication is very important. So that's what we're going to talk about here today. Brenda, since you're my vet, I want to start with you here real quick. You've done the podcast a bunch, so you're used to me throwing questions out there and just letting you go. Have there been any trends within your department as far as communication is concerned, good or bad, that you've been noticing lately?
Well, with equipment changing and everything, now we got these fancy tablets. So you're finding more drivers are wanting to maybe communicate through that computer, the tablet, more than maybe picking up the phone calling.
Would you prefer one of those over the other, or is it just whatever works the best for the driver? How do you see that shaping up?
So I go back to the driver. They're the ones putting in the work. If that driver is busy, putting a quick message in that tablet might be the best thing. If you've got a problem going on, the best way to resolve that is get someone on the phone because there could be a lot more issues in there.
And I will tell you this right now, my experience, Brenda is one of the best answerers of the phone. I don't know that there's ever been once that I've sent an email, a text message, or called you, Brenda, that you haven't picked up or gotten back to me immediately. So hats off for that. I know you've got a lot going on. Keeping up with that kind of communication can't be easy all the time.
No, it's getting a little more harder and harder as more things get on your plate here. But the main thing is just good communication.
Absolutely. Tim, let's tip it over to you now. How about within your department, communication trends, good or bad, that you've seen over the last few months?
Oh, man. I've seen both of them, to be honest. I have a few of my drivers that they'll come in and out, that they're very talkative, and they want to talk, and they're really good at communicating. And then sometimes it's a heavy day. We do a lot of cabinet stuff. So sometimes they get tired, maybe forget to say something. But that's really dependent. Overall, I think for the most part, my drivers have been really good. Arvin, we got on today. He's phenomenal with his communication and how he talks to me throughout the day and keep me updated with all of his problems. And for the most part, the rest of the drivers seem to call us too.
Okay. Well, Arvin, that's a perfect segue to talk to you now. As far as when you're out on the road, what's your philosophy on the communication? Because it sounds like you're a good communicator. Tim always knows what's going on with you. What are your thoughts when you're out there on the road as far as communicating with the terminal and making sure that they are kept up with everything that's going on with you?
Well, to me, I'd rather communicate by phone instead of over the tablet, because when you're driving, you cannot communicate over the tablet.
Right. Makes it pretty complicated.
To me, I'm old school. If I have a question or want to communicate, I'm always on the phone. And I wish the other people in the office would do the same thing instead of referring to that tablet. If they got questions, they need to be picking the phone up and contacting the drivers.
Mm-hmm. And
that goes for the shop too. 3 days trying to get a trailer fixed. And I let them know that something was wrong with it. But not once did one of them call and say, hey, what's going on?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I know after our episode last week, we talked to the shop, talked to Jim over there and Janie as well. And I know that they are definitely making some strides in trying to better their communication with drivers and also let drivers know how they can better get a hold of the shop if something like that happens. So it's definitely something we've been trying to address on this podcast. And hopefully with a little bit of time and talking to the right people, we can make that happen. Tony, I want to go over to you now. Last one, we haven't heard from you yet. As far as communication is concerned, what's your take on the situation? Is H&M and the drivers communicating well? Are they communicating poorly? How do you see it as it pertains to your day?
Well, honestly, Brenda's my dispatcher, so if it's something simple that I just need to let her know about, I just usually shoot a message to her. And if she knows if I make a phone call to her, she knows it has a little bit more importance to it. So I think there's a point where you have to, as a driver, I think there's a point where you have to prioritize what's important and what is just something that just needs to be known. And same thing back to me from Brenda. If it's something that's not very important, just something I need to know, she'll shoot me a quick message. But if it's something that's of a higher importance, she gives me a phone call.
Okay.
And as far as any of the communication, as far as shop-wise, if it's something that needs a repair, but it's not a out-of-service issue, I always try to line up with Brenda before getting with the shop. That way it's not going to totally shut down myself inside of in the middle of a load of trying to get the repair done. If it's something that is to where I can still run down the road and get things taken care of and get it done when I have an open schedule. So I think it's just a matter of the driver themselves prioritizing what their information they're wanting to communicate. And sometimes things get, I know it might sound a little weird, but if it's a problem, try to solve it yourself before making phone calls and involving people to where it's taken out of what their work schedule is.
Mm-hmm.
So, but as far as between me and Brenda and getting things lined up shop-wise and everything else, like I said, it's just a matter of where the importance of what you want to communicate. If it's something simple, just shoot a message. If it's more important, make a phone call.
Sure. That sounds good. Arvin, I want to hear your response to what Tony just said there. Is that kind of something that you like to do too, is prioritize your phone calls versus your tablet messages?
Yes, I very rarely use the tablet unless, like, I'm at a shipper and I've been there for hours. I let them know over that I've been there. It's my 2-hour mark.
Gotcha.
Tim and I constantly let him know what's going on because I'm the type that rather have everybody on the front page instead of the back page.
Gotcha. Well, totally understand that. Denny, you've been listening to all this as a driver that spent a lot of time with H&M. I know you've got some thoughts. Entertain me here. What are you thinking?
Well, I don't know. Since I retired, maybe policies changed, but if I had a repair issue, I'd actually call Janie and I'd let her know what's going on. And once we set up something, I would contact Stacy, my dispatcher, and say, okay, here's what's going on. I'm going to stop in Fargo at the Petro and get such and such done, fuel filter changed or whatever. Again, maybe policies change. You're supposed to go through your dispatcher to get to, I don't know. That may have changed since I left, but if Janie, it wasn't always that she would answer the phone. Occasionally I'd get voicemail, but she'd always get back in touch with me. So I never had these communication issues. And I'm with, I forget which one of the drivers we got that said he's old school and he doesn't like to text. And I'm the same way. First of all, most of the time I'm busy when I'm stopped. So I'm got the headset. Easy to make a phone call, push the button, go call Stacy. And so I did most everything by phone as well. I do agree with the sending the message. If you're looking at detention, get that thing on record so they can't go, I forgot that phone call. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, got you there. Well, Brenda, what do you think after you hear Denny and the drivers talk through it there? Is there anything that we could do better as far as our communication and making sure that dispatch is tied in with the driver and the shop and all these moving parts that go into making everybody's day a little bit easier?
Well, I would just suggest if you are a driver that, as they're describing it, the old school way, when you get off that phone, better make it a habit to put it on the tablet, simply because you're covered, right? Mm-hmm. That dispatcher, that person you talk to can't deny what you said. You put it on there, it's documented. Everyone can read the black and white. But when it comes to a phone call, I can always say, I don't remember him saying that. And that's not meaning he didn't say it. That's just, you know what, I got busy. Things were happening. I don't remember if he said that or not. Then it turns into all these complicated things where if it's on that tablet, there's no swaying from it. That driver did it. The dispatcher needs to be accountable for that. Makes it a lot easier for me.
Sure. Well, and it sounds like you're almost using it as like a digital timestamp. It's something that things can get lost in translation. Even those of us that make a point to communicate as well and as clearly as we possibly can, you can't account for what's going on in someone else's head at the time. And if the sky has just fallen on you, Brenda, and then another driver calls with something different and you guys are having a slam bang conversation real fast, it's possible that something might get lost in translation. So if it's in the tablet, that covers your bases, right?
All the time. Yep. And I'm a big cover my bases, right? I don't ever want to be held up because I didn't document something. So I will even find out drivers that after I get off the phone with them, I'll send them a message. Hey, per our phone conversation, please do this.
Got it. That's perfect. Well, I had a year here recently in my life where my dad and I were talking. I was going to him for some advice, and he said, Marcus, you're going to have what I like to call a cover your ass year. And maybe we should look at that all as the drivers are always having a cover your ass year, and covering your ass is getting that information in that tablet eventually so that it is time stamped and that everybody has access to it. Am I on the right page there at least, Brenda?
It's sounding good to me. I like it.
All right. Perfect. Tim, you're sitting there patiently listening to all of this stuff. What are your thoughts as we talk about covering your ass and making sure things are in the tablet?
No, I completely agree. It's the next way, whether it be a text message in the tablet, like something that's documentable, recordable, and isn't easily able to be hidden. It's a great way just to make sure that everyone's on the same page. Something was said along the line, and just making sure that we can always come back to that.
Yeah, for sure. Tony, do you have any type of kind of standard operating procedure that you use when it comes to something? You talked about, hey, I prioritize, it's a call, and if it's not that bad, maybe I'll just shoot a message. But as far as your documentation for things go, are you always getting to the tablet right after you talk to somebody on the phone and making sure that everything's in there?
Usually if it's something that I warrant a phone call, I know it's going to get taken care of, but just the daily, the daily updates of how the days are going. Like today, I just found out I'm going to be here a little extra long at my receiver or at my shipper. I've already shot that message out. I know that's going to be taken care of. But if it was something, say like blew a tire, so you know what? I'm going to go ahead and make a phone call as, hey, Brenda blew a tire. I'm going to have to go to the tire shop, get a tire fixed. And that's where I prioritize it. If it's something that I know is like setting up your home time schedule, mm-hmm. There's a actual segment for that. You put in your home time, boom, it's there. It's all good. That way, there's not that question of, well, I don't remember you saying that. Well, no, it's in the tablet of I put it in. So that's where I prioritize things. And to me, I like to just, I don't know how to say, fend for myself out here. Not saying that dispatch can't help me on things. It's just I try to make things simple for myself, which makes things simple for dispatch.
Okay.
And so that's where my prioritizing of all the communications is, as far as whether it's a message or a phone call.
Sure. And it goes back into covering your ass, right? You just cover your ass before dispatch covers your ass too. So you're double covered. Yeah. That's always good. Denny, I asked Tony that question. I asked him, are you always putting stuff in the tablet after you get off the phone? You were ceremoniously shaking your head no, and I imagine that comes from your experience. Talk to me.
Well, before I went to work for H&M, you had to send messages back and forth on the Qualcomm with previous companies. And I just want to make sure that people in the office, be it safety, dispatch, whatever, they realize that for you to send a message, that means, first of all, you got to find somewhere to pull off. So you got to find a rest area or a truck stop or something so you can pull off. And if they send you a message and you have to read it or answer it, then you got the same thing. You got to find somewhere because you want to be safe. You don't want to be driving down the road, punching buttons on your tablet now. But to say you had a conversation, you're driving 65 miles an hour down the interstate. You can't stop right now to document that. Now, maybe you could make a mental note. Okay, we talked at a little after 12 noon. And then when you stop for the day, you can send a message. Hey, this is just to confirm our conversation of around noontime today about blah, blah, blah. But for a driver to have to find somewhere to pull off, stop, answer a quick message, even if it's fast, you're wasting at least 15 minutes. And every minute that you're not on the road, that's money out of your pocket. So that's my concern, is if they're trying to get to sending messages instead of phone calls. That's one of the things I truly loved about H&M is if I had an issue, I could pick up the phone and call somebody. I didn't have to stop and take the time to go messaging back and forth. And just sure enough, you send that message, you got, okay, well, pull out of the rest area, you get back up to speed, you're about 5 miles down the road, bing, here comes another message. So, okay, that's my concern. I'll shut the...
No, it's great because now we can go to Brenda and Tim, and there's a little bit of on-the-job knowledge and a concern that comes from somebody who dealt with these concerns before. Tim, do you have a response to what Denny said there and how it's tough to deal with the tablet while you're rolling?
Yeah, I completely understand it. What I do, and I've had this talk with Arvin and a few of my other drivers, when I send out a message over the tablet, it's never something that needs to be addressed right away. Because I know when you're driving, you can't just pull over. You can't get on it while you're driving. It won't let you. And then it's hard to get pulled over right then and there to get a message back. So when it's something that needs addressed immediately, I do my best to pick up the phone and call, or if something changes, something that needs to happen right away. But if it's something like, oh, hey, your delivery appointment tomorrow got changed from 8 to 8:30, like something that you just need to know, it doesn't needs to happen quick, fast, in a hurry, I'll shoot something like that over the messages in the tablet. But if it's something like, oh, hey, we're going to split you off in the yard that you're coming up on here in 20 minutes, I get that phone picked up and give you a call.
Okay. Well, you just got a double thumbs up from Denny. So Denny approves for sure of your protocol. Arvin, you're one of Tim's drivers. Do you like that, how he communicates, where he's also prioritizing phone calls over messages for things that are important, need to know basis type of things?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, it sounds like you guys work really well together. This is great because we've got a couple of really good examples. Brenda and Tony obviously communicate very well as well. Brenda, did you have any response to what Denny just said and what Denny and Tim were just talking about?
Well, Bertholf and I have been together for a good part of 10 plus years. So we're probably going on 12, 13 years together. So when Tony says we know how to communicate, we really know how to communicate. When he needs to text me, he texts me. And that means Tony doesn't have a problem. He's just giving me a good ETA, maybe a question about something, informing me he needs some detention pay, stuff like that. Now, when it comes to problems, I'm on Denny's page. If his load switched in any way, and I just need to call the driver. Mm-hmm. You just need to call him and say, hey, you're not delivering here, you're going here, or whatever the problem may be. When it's a problem, you got to call. You can't text that. there's so many ways that text and messages can be misread. So I agree with Denny. There's time for phone calls, but I also believe that as we're moving on and moving up and growing here at H&M, dispatchers are getting busy. And for the little things in life, we do need to pick up that tablet and send a message.
For sure.
Makes sense.
It really does. That's one of the biggest things with effective communication. I was actually just researching communication in the workplace before this, and one of the things that did come up that you guys have touched on many times during this conversation in my research is that prioritizing communication is very important. Having a way to communicate for things a lot like what Tony said. It's a text message. This is an ETA. This is nothing that Brenda needs to do a backflip over. Or, hey, I'm broken down and I need help now. That's a phone call. And there's kind of everything in between there. But for the drivers out there listening at H&M that maybe have had some communication issues in the past with dispatch or with the shop, I think one good way to look at it is how big is your problem and what communication, I guess, looking to make method do you need to elevate your problem to? And of course, if you're just looking to make sure that it's clear, concise, and everybody heard everything,
about that.
obviously a phone call is always going to be your best bet. Arvin talked about that. Danny, you said phone call is my jam. I like that. What I also notice is talking to as many drivers from H&M as I have. Drivers are very responsive to phone calls, almost more than any other group of people that I've ever had the pleasure of talking to over the phone. I do not have trouble getting in touch with drivers, and even actually as an example, Arvin, when we called you, your phone went right to voicemail. I had not finished telling the other people on the phone that the call went to voicemail when your return call came in. So you guys are Johnny on the spot with this stuff. You know how to communicate out of the cab of your truck effectively, and I think that having this conversation, well, I don't think we reinvented the wheel here, but we got some thoughts out, and we talked about ways to prioritize and ways to effectively communicate. So I think this has been a great conversation. We do have a little bit of time left here. I want to start with the drivers and ask if there's anything else that we didn't cover in this conversation. And Arvin, we'll start with you. Anything else that we didn't cover in this conversation in terms of communication that you would like to bring up or see addressed, Arvin?
Basically, just for everybody to be on the same page and get back to what you said about my phone went to voicemail. Yeah, I didn't have your number programmed in my phone, so it automatically kicked it to voicemail.
Yep. That's something else I noticed with drivers. You guys have that thing dialed, man. You don't get bugged by those spam calls. You've got it made so that if that number's not in your phone, it goes straight to voicemail. You're not the first person I've called that's like that. It's a very good way to keep yourself focused on the road and not be bugged by a bunch of spam or robot calls.
Right. I try to stay communicated with the safety department as well, as like James or Dale Cook or whoever, but actually would pick up the phone and say, hey, how's your day going or whatever.
Okay. Well, you know what? I've got a direct line into James's pocket. Sometimes he answers and sometimes he doesn't, but we'll make sure that he hears this, and we'll make sure Dale hears it too. I know Dale's been listening to the podcast, and we'll see if that's not something that they can do for you, Arvin, because that's what we're here for. We want to get the driver's thoughts out there, see what they'd like, and see if we can make that happen for them. And thank you for that. Tony, heading over to you, is there anything that we haven't covered here today that you maybe want to bring up, or any final thoughts for us, either one?
Not really on my end. Like I said before, I try to keep things simple and, like I said, have that priority list of what negates a message and what negates a phone call. So that's about the only thing I can say about the communication thing. Because I know us as drivers, we're busy doing our thing, and dispatchers are busy doing their thing, and the shop is busy doing their thing. So that's where that prioritizing comes in effect. Really nothing else for me.
Good. That means we did a good job.
That means we did a good job. We covered most of it. Tim, let's go over to you real quick. Anything else that you might want to mention before we let you go?
Honestly, I think we nailed everything that runs through my mind when I think about communication between the drivers and us here at the office. Nailed everything on the head.
Perfect. That's what we're here for. Brenda, do you have as high of marks for Denny and I as what Tim and Arvin and Tony just gave us?
Yeah, absolutely. You guys are all great.
Anything that we left out before we let you go?
I'm good on my end.
All right. Perfect. Well, Brenda Hampton, Tim Gray, Arvin Knox Jr., and Tony Bertholf. You guys are all fantastic. I want to thank you. And you know what, Denny Stone, you did a pretty good job yourself. So thanks, everybody, for being here. This has been a fantastic conversation. You guys, drivers, stay safe out there. Keep the shiny side up. Brenda and Tim, we'll get you back in here soon, okay?
Thanks, Marcus. Goodbye, everybody.
After a long day of driving, you're tired and hungry with fewer and fewer good restaurants out there. What are your options? Fast food again? Something from the roller grill? Another cold sandwich? Believe it or not, you can cook on the truck. Okay, it's not what Grandma'd make. It's not a gourmet meal, but it'll be better, cheaper, and probably healthier than anything you can buy in a truck stop. And I'm here to show you how. Welcome to Bill's Big Rig Cafe. Hey drivers, time for Bill's Big Rig Cafe, and today we're making breakfast tacos. That's what we call them in Texas. Most of the world says breakfast burritos, but hey, I'm from Texas. Okay, here's what you got to get together. Some flour tortillas, some egg beaters. If you can find the smaller container, that's good, but the big one, take about half of it, pour it in the freezer. That way it'll keep. You got some shredded cheese. You can use any kind of meat, potatoes, refried beans. So you put the egg beaters in, stick them in a microwave. You got to put them in for like maybe 30 seconds, stir them up a little bit, put them back in for another 30 seconds or so. Today we're going to use the Jimmy Dean sausage crumbles. You could also use bacon. You can get that pre-cooked or uncooked. You just put it on a paper plate with a paper towel over it and nuke it. It's a lot cheaper than the pre-cooked stuff. So anyway, lunch meat of any kind. If you got some ham, that'll go good in there. Some chorizo would be real good if you can get that. But anyway, so you get your eggs going in the microwave. Like I said, you might have to stir them a couple of times. Did I mention you can put refried beans in these? Or potatoes. If you can maybe get to Chester's or somewhere or get you some potato wedges, just cut those up into bite-sized pieces. They work real well. You see what I'm doing with these eggs just to make scrambled because you're making them in a microwave. If you got a skillet, knock your lights out, but less mess this way. The reason I put that bowl on top is to keep the splatter because you don't want to have to clean out the microwave. So you do that. You're also going to need, obviously, the paper bowls, some paper towels, and hopefully you have enough to have some extra. You got a couple of Ziploc baggies or a larger one, you can put those in it. So I usually take like 1 or 2 paper towels, and then I put the flour tortillas in those, stick them in the microwave for, maybe 20 seconds to warm them up. Hey, by the way, while I'm thinking about it, let me give you another one of those great restaurants to try when you're out on the road. You might have heard us mention this when we were talking with Ed, Bill Martin's big brother, when we kind of told the story of how Bill's Big Rig Cafe got started. You might have heard us mention Ranch Hand. That's become a favorite. And by the way, if you peel off just past Little America on US 30 and take US 30 up to Pocatello, it's, I think, just like 1 mile difference. And it's a lot nicer drive. You avoid all that traffic around Ogden, just north of Salt Lake City, and you'll go by Ranch Hand, which is actually on US 30 in Montpelier, Idaho. It's been run by the same family for generations. Okay, back to cooking here. You put the sausage in there. That's frozen. It came right out of the freezer. So I put it in with the eggs and heat that up a little bit more while the eggs finish cooking. Anyway, Ranch Hand, great food. They're just nice people, huge parking lot, and you can pull in there anytime, day or night. There's always a place to park at Ranch Hand. Okay, here we're getting the tortillas ready. Like I said, you put them on. I use those selective size paper towels, so it's 2 of those. Put a tortilla on it, 2 more, put a tortilla on that. Depending on the size of your tortillas, obviously, because you can get little bitty ones and great big ginormous ones. But I get these, I think they're like 12-inch size. Stick them in for maybe 20 seconds or so, just to heat them up so they don't try to crack on you or anything when you start folding these breakfast tacos up. I'm a Texas boy. All right, here we go. We're going to get this stuff together. Ranch Hand, man, you got to check that place out. That was one of Bill's favorites, one of Ed's favorite, and it's been there forever. Good breakfast, lunch, dinner. All right, just stir this stuff up a little bit to mix it up, and then we'll grab our tortillas here in a second and make you some breakfast tacos. Oh, Man, good stuff. By the way, just a quick tip. If you can get a rotisserie chicken, maybe you're in Walmart. Used to, they were cheaper than buying a chicken, but if you can get one of those, you can make numerous meals out of that, dude. That's a good, just on the road tip. All right. Take a portion of that, maybe, a fourth to a third of what we cooked up. Put that in your tortilla. Then you're going to put some cheese on that, however much you like. If you had some of those potatoes, man, those would be good on there. I love potatoes in my breakfast tacos, but didn't have any today, so we're making do. We're making sausage, egg, and cheese. Put a little salsa on there, too. Oh, yeah, you got to get some salsa. If you like a little more kick, jalapeno peppers. But there it is. Okay, the Texas way, roll that one corner over, and you just roll that thing up. Stick the rest of that in there, and then roll it up in there, and then you go to make the other one. By the way, if you do have leftover and you save it, after it gets in the refrigerator and gets cold, and then you take it out, you put it in the microwave and heat it up, that paper towel will want to stick to it. So what I would do is take the paper towel you stored it in, you made it in, take that off, just maybe put it on a paper plate or something if you're going to eat it right away. That way it won't do that to you. But, man, these make great leftovers for, a day or two from now when you want some breakfast. All you got to do is pop that in the oven or microwave, and 30 seconds later, maybe a minute, and you got breakfast. This is some good stuff, man. All right, you roll these dudes up, and then you want to melt the cheese. So pop them back in the microwave just a little while. Hey, another tip, cook extra when you're at home and get those containers like I showed you before. And just, instead of sticking it in the refrigerator and your old lady's going to throw it away in about a week because nobody ate it, stick it in those containers, put it in the freezer. Then when you get ready to hit the road again, take those out, put them in your freezer. Man, you got a home-cooked meal. Another tip. Man, you got to find your way to live on the road. If you don't want to eat out all the time, I'll try to share these tips and pointers with you. But breakfast tacos is one of my absolute favorite meals. Doesn't take any time at all. Well, you see how fast we put this all together, and there it is. Man, ready to it's time to chat out. I'll catch y'all later. It's Bill's Big Rig Cafe. We'll catch you next time, and y'all do be safe out there.
Thanks for joining me for dinner here in Bill's Big Rig Cafe. Do you have a favorite dish you prepare on the truck? Do you know of a great place to eat out here on the road? Any questions, suggestions, or comments? I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget, catch me next week for another on-the-road dinner here in Bill's Big Rig Cafe.
All right, some of the things you might want to avoid this week coming up. The Outer Banks Bike Week is out in North Carolina. That's the 21st through the 28th. The Mayhem Motorcycle Rallies in Bullhead City, Arizona, the 25th through the 28th. The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival is going on for 10 days or more, the 25th through the 5th of May. And the Leesburg Bike Fest is in Florida, Leesburg, Florida, from the 26th to the 28th. So just watch out for those rolling roadblocks and all those crazy super bikers hauling their motorcycles. Ride to the rally, guys. Shoot.
All right, Denny, we got a little bit of breaking news to get to here. I don't know if breaking is the right way to do it. I just I kind of was looking for some interesting stories this time. I feel like a lot of times when we cover breaking news, it's either doom and gloom or it's big things happening. I don't really think that applies to very many of these stories today that we have.
Oh, good. Lighthearted fun.
Lighthearted fun. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I wanted to start out by honoring one of the many phenomenal women in trucking. Actually, the Women in Trucking Association has named their 2024 Distinguished Woman in Logistics. And I'm getting this article from aftermarketnews.com. The Women in Trucking Association, in concert with Truck Stop and Transportation Intermediaries Association, announced Sarah Ruffcorn, who's president of Trinity Logistics, as the winner of the 10th Annual Distinguished Woman in Logistics Award. She was chosen from 3 finalists, which include her, Sherry Garner Brombaugh, who is the president and CEO of Garner Trucking, and Ramona Hood, president and CEO of FedEx Custom Critical, Inc. So some pretty big competition that she had there, but congratulations to Sarah Ruffcorn. She is our Women in Trucking Association Woman in Logistics Award winner for 2024. That was a mouthful. I barely got through it.
I'm glad you had to say that, not me.
It's just so many acronyms and so many associations, but I like stuff like this. I think it's important that we honor, obviously the women in trucking, but I think it's just important in general to honor.
I think we should do a whole show on the women in trucking, but I'm talking about not the CEOs and presidents. I'm talking about the ladies behind the wheel and what they have to, because I know they got a whole other list of challenges that we don't have. So maybe we can get that on the calendar one of these days.
We can. And if you give me 1 second here, I'm just pulling up my list of episodes because we did do a Women in Trucking episode long ago before you got here. Actually, it was a really long time before you got here, but I want to tell everybody that's listening where they can find that. That is episode 13 of the H&M Trucking Podcast. It's called...
That is a while back.
Yeah, it's...
You didn't have gray in your beard back then, did you?
I didn't. I did not. It's true. And I got all the gray from episodes 14 through 55, Denny, and counting. But that episode is called Grit and Grace, Women in Trucking. We talked to some fantastic women from H&M actually on that episode. So we do have one, but you're more than right. It's time to do another. If it's all the way back at episode 13, we're going to get another Grit and Grace episode on the podcast here very soon.
Got to get Miss Ellen on there.
Miss Ellen?
Miss Ellen.
I don't think I met
Miss Ellen had more years driving with H&M than any other truck driver. She had like 3 or 4 million miles.
Wow.
She's retired now too. She retired a little while before I did, but got to get her on and get your bleep button ready.
Oh, she got a little bit of a sailor's mouth or a trucker's mouth, I guess is probably what we should call it. That's great. So she fits in well. She can hang is what you're saying.
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, she can hold her own. And she drove one of those long nose like you like, one of those long nose trucks. So.
Oh, really?
There you go.
Okay, I like that. All right. Well, we'll get Miss Ellen on here for sure. I would love to talk to her. I think I've seen her comment on some of the posts on Facebook from time to time from H&M drivers. So she should be easy to get a hold of. Let's hope that she'll agree to come on the podcast. I'm sure she will. We'll tell her we'll pat her on the back for all those safe miles she piled up.
I hope so. Hope we can get her. It'd be great to talk to her again. Anyway, we probably need to move on to other things, right?
Well, yeah, we got a few other things to talk about here. This one's really quick. More than 29,000 Freightliner and Western Star trucks being recalled, according to TruckerNews.com. Daimler Trucks North America is recalling certain 2023 and 2024 Freightliner 108 SDs, 114 SDs, business class M2s, Cascadias, 2024 Western Star 57X and 2023 Freightliner 122 SDs. Apparently, Denny, these have a steer axle wheel flange that can crack and cause damage to the tires, which could cause a crash. But owner notification letters haven't even gone out on this yet. They're not even going out until around June 2nd. So I would say if you're driving one of these models of trucks, definitely watch the mail or, check with your dispatcher, your driver manager to see if they've gotten any notices on your truck in particular, because
I'm sure Jim will be all on top of that. Jim in the shop, he'll be watching that stuff too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just find this interesting that you put an announcement out that, hey, we're going to recall, and then the letters don't go out till June 2nd. But we know right now, today, and even before today, because this article came out yesterday, or maybe even the day before. I don't even know what damn day it is, but we know about this. I think that waiting for the letters is not a good idea. Am I off base there, or what do you think?
I don't know. It's like when they have, four-wheelers, when they have recalls and then it takes you a year and a half to get the thing fixed.
Yeah.
It's like, that's kind of unsettling. You say something's unsafe. Let's get this stuff fixed now.
Yeah. Especially because a lot of these recalls and things come in concert with the NTHSA and everything like that. So these are federal organizations that are saying these aren't safe. We should probably put a premium on getting those trucks repaired sooner rather than later, Again, 29,000 Freightliners and Western Stars with all those models included. That is the end of any bad news for the day. I'll promise you that. This next one I've got for you, Denny, is a really cool program. I got this story from FreightWaves. Did you know that about 50 high schools across the United States offer truck driving classes?
That is so cool because, used to the expected thing to do for most people, at least when I was in high school, was, you graduate high school, you either go in the military, you go to college. Mm-hmm. And even to this day, I'd say the majority of kids going to college, they have no idea what they want to do. So, here they got 4-year degree in advanced basket weaving and they can't get a job, but they've got a huge debt.
Yep. Giant. Bigger than any other debt you're going to have at that age, for sure.
Anything that will train you for a career where you can be out there earning money instead of accumulating this huge debt. Yes, obviously, if you've got the chops, if you can do math and you can write code like my youngest son does, great. If you can draw and you want to be an architect or an engineer, we need those. But if you don't have any earthly idea what you want to do with your life, then trade school, learn how to weld, learn how to work on trucks, learn how to drive trucks, because there's going to be there already is a shortage, but it's getting worse. Yep. We're going to need drivers, good drivers.
According to some experts, 1.2 million drivers over the next decade if we want to meet demand. That's a lot of new drivers, and there are some people that will tell you there's a driver shortage right now. So we need these types of classes for sure. And
especially if they can, if they grew up here and they can speak the language and read the signs. I've literally had I show up at a shipper and this guy cannot speak English. He has an app in his phone. He talks into his phone in Russian or something and then holds the phone out to me.
Mm-hmm. I've heard a bunch of stories about that.
You gotta be kidding me. Yep. If you can't speak English, read English, I understand if you want to make a better life and come to this country and go through the proper steps and become a citizen and pay taxes and all that, great. I'm all behind it. But if you can't read the signs, if you can't speak English, how can you safely operate, 80,000 pounds going down the road?
Yep. It's a good question. Good question. Well, next generation in trucking.
I'm glad. I like this news you said. I think that's a great program. They should expand that exponentially.
Yep, I agree. And it's done by Next Generation in Trucking Association. And right now they've got about 50 schools across 15 states, but they have met with over 300 high schools.
One question I'll throw out is you graduate from high school basically when you're about 18, but you can't get your CDL at 18, can you?
I don't think so. I think you have to be older than that. I don't know what the exact, let me see if I can Google it real quick, but
that's just a question that popped into my mind is, are these kids going to be motivated to take this class if it's not going to do them any good for another 3 years?
Looks like 21 years of age, but 18 for intrastate. And that's intrastate, not interstate. So if you're staying within your state.
They could actually earn a living. Good deal. Yep. Good. I like that.
And you know what? This just goes to a little bit further to further your point here, Denny, and that is that trades in high schools are starting to go away. Where I went to high school, very small school, I graduated with 40 kids in my senior class. We had a giant shop, a metal shop and a wood shop, both, and we actually made money for our class. The ag students and the shop students would build these giant angle iron trailers for the local farmers and the local ranchers and auction them off each year, and that was how we learned to weld. You learn how
when I was in high school, we had a number of different shop classes. They had, in fact, one of them was called building trades. Mm-hmm. And every semester, I think it took them 2 semesters. So every year they built a house from the ground up.
Wow. That's so cool.
Sold it.
That's so cool. I mean, that type of stuff.
The automotive and body shop that, you could take. They weren't going to do it in 2 weeks. So it was like a restoration, body off, whatever. But if you had an old classic car you wanted restored or painted, it might take them a semester, but they'd get it done.
Yeah.
And they learned how to do stuff. It wasn't just, making knickknacks or whatever. They were actually learning a trade. And I regret I wasn't part of that because I was busy with my own stuff in high school. I was in all kinds of bands. And not only a high school band, but I was playing jazz and concert trombone in Houston. So anyway.
Yeah. No, I got mixed up in the music part of it too. And that's another great thing and thing that's going away in a lot of high schools. Like there are a lot of high schools now that do not have bona fide music programs. And I've told my band instructor this going all the way back to when I was in high school. I told him if I ever become just rich and I have money just burning a hole in my pocket, I'm going to take a large chunk of that and I'm going to completely remake the high school music program at my old high school because it did so much for me. I'm pushing 40 years old. I still play the drums to this day because of one thing that my band instructor said to me when I was in junior high, and I still remember it like it was yesterday. Those things are very important for students. They will get a lot out of them, and the trades need employees right now. So learning things like wood shop, metalworking, welding, plumbing, anything like that you can in high school is just such a huge step up. And take it from somebody that also got that college degree that's very expensive, Denny was mentioning earlier. Those are a dime a dozen anymore. We're in the generation now where everybody's got a college degree and you're not getting these upper level positions unless you have a master's or some sort of continuing education certificate after your bachelor's degree. So keep that in mind. If you like working with your hands, there's a lot of cool stuff out there that you can do, and really hope that they continue this high school program with Next Generation and Trucking Association. I'd love to see it all over the country. And finally, a turkey went through a windshield. We'll get to this one quick because we have a couple of things we want to get to and save some time for, but this actually came out of the great state of Oregon. We got a regional driver here, hauls from Portland down I-5 to Medford and then back up to Portland. It's a straight shot. I-5, if you've been on it, it's not the most exciting freeway. It's pretty in some spots, but one thing that will happen is wildlife will make its way onto that freeway from time to time in some of the rural areas. And this turkey came out of the median and crashed through right on the driver's side. Wow. The turkey actually hit the driver in the head, Denny, and then exited through the back window. This turkey was going fast enough that it left an exit wound in the truck. That's amazing to me. Fortunately, our driver here, his name is Dave Duell. He's okay. He did have to be life flighted with some head injuries, obviously breaking glass and a large avian variety coming through your window. That's not going to be good, but he has regained sight in his right eye. He's going to have surgery on his left eye, and he's expected to make a full recovery. So did you ever hear about anything or see anything like that happen when you were out driving?
I had either a hawk or an owl one time that broke my fairing. The fairing that goes over the windshield just literally broke it off. It was hanging by the wires. I had to get up and use about, 24 zip ties. By the way, drivers, zip ties, duct tape, and WD-40, essential supplies for your toolkit. But yeah, that's the only thing that kept me going down the road was a bunch of zip ties. And then, of course, it had to get fixed. I had to go to the body shop and all that stuff. But it didn't hit the windshield. It just hit that fairing, but broke that sucker completely off.
If it would have hit the windshield, probably would have at least cracked it, I would think.
Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy. Scary stuff out there. You got to watch out for them turkeys, man. They don't fly very high either. So if you see a turkey flying, it already has a death wish. Just try to get out of the way because I'm talking like they got like a 7 to 10 foot ceiling. They're not getting up very much higher.
80,000 pounds dodging weaving down the road trying to dodge turkeys. That's scary.
That's true.
Dude.
That's true. Take the advice from Denny, not from me. I'm not the guy. I'm not the authority here. And real quick, before we move on to a really cool thing we've got to tell you about, just want to remind you, we'll be doing more content about this in the coming weeks, but the CVSA's International Road Check has been scheduled for May 14th through the 16th. Of course, they're going to do high visibility, high volume commercial motor vehicle inspection and regulatory compliance enforcement. This takes place over the United States, Canada, and Mexico. That's where we get the international moniker from. And they've got 2 focus areas like they do every year. This year, they're going to be focusing on tractor protection systems and alcohol and controlled substance possession, Denny. It looks like the number of drivers listed in the U.S. Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse has been increasing pretty steadily over the last couple of years. And CVSA is aiming to at least try to mitigate that a little bit. I was interested because, tractor protection systems is kind of what we're you're used to hearing for these CVSA road checks. I think last year's was tire wear and ABS systems is what they were looking at. So you're thinking, okay, they're going to be looking for mechanical things that you can catch on your pre-trip. Drug and alcohol compliance is definitely not that. And so makes you wonder how bad the problem actually is out there across the industry.
Don't drink and drive, and don't put beer and alcohol on your truck. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't begrudge anybody. If I'd finished my day and I walked across the street to a nice Mexican food place, I might have a beer.
Yeah.
But I'm done for the day. And by the next morning, I'm good to drive.
Right.
But I know guys that get a suitcase and take it back to the truck and drink it in the evening. Like, y'all are nuts.
Yeah, that's risking it. That's really risking it. You don't want to be messing around with this, and especially not during the international road check, because they will pin your ass to the wall. Yeah, don't do it anyway. You'll get your ass pinned to the wall sooner or later if you're out there messing around like that, I would hope. So we're trying to keep the roads safe out here. We'll talk more about the CVSA International Road Check in the coming weeks, as I said. Okay, I'm all done blabbering now. You've got something for us.
Actually, I got at least one thing. Maybe two, if we have time.
Yeah, we do.
I saw this on, I think it was the H&M Friends page on Facebook. Dale Levy, I hope I got your name right, Dale. He's an H&M driver. He shared this. There's a Texas restaurant. I don't know if it's a full-blown restaurant. It has semi-truck friendly drive-through and truck parking.
Wow, that's cool.
The only truck drive-through I've ever known. It shut down years ago, but it was out in either New Mexico or Arizona, right across from the Petros, a barbecue place. And you could actually drive your rig around, and they had a jacked up window that you just like at McDonald's, but bigger.
Yeah, a little bit more pull around space, I imagine.
Had a big driveway around. That was pretty cool. Anyway, it's a specialty iced tea shop. Now, they've actually opened one here in the town I live in, but it doesn't have the big truck drive through. It's called HTO. That's HTEAO.
Okay.
They make all kind of specialty teas and stuff.
I like a good flavored iced tea. Yeah. You get some of that sweet tea, mix it with a little lemonade, get yourself an Arnold Palmer. Oh, so good.
I'm sure they got that and all kinds of like strawberry teas. And I don't know what they have, but anyway, the particular one we're talking about is in Childress. Now, if you're not familiar with that, it's a little town. It's on 287 in between Amarillo and Wichita Falls.
Okay.
And by the way, while I'm on that one, I'll drop another one of those great places to eat in Bowie, Texas. There's a little truck stop there. It's got Armadillo Grill. It's got a full-blown restaurant in there. I've never eaten in the restaurant, but the snack bar is outstanding. Hand-pressed burgers, hand-cut fries is good. Anyway, but that's a different story. And they do have truck parking, by the way. But this is HTO in Childress, Texas. Has trucker-friendly amenities to go along with a massive menu of flavored iced teas and other specialty beverages. So there will be a regular vehicle drive-through as well as a drive-through for the big truck and trailer drivers. A lot big enough for trucks to park if they want to come in and enjoy some tea or coffee.
That's awesome. That's
You're on 287. Check it out. That's worth stopping just for the novelty of it, I would think.
I would think so, too. I mean, even if you didn't want a tea or a coffee, you want to pull through the drive-through just to get an ice water, just to see what it's like to be able to take your truck through a drive-through.
Mm-hmm. And then stop a few miles down the road and pee.
Yeah, man. An iced tea runs through me on a hot summer day. There's no question about it. But it's actually kind of made me crave like a good flavored iced tea. I haven't had one in a long time. I don't think I've ever had strawberry, but you said strawberry.
I don't know. I'm just guessing. I drink iced tea with sugar like Texans do, and everybody else goes, God, it's sweet. I'm like, yeah, that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. The first time I ever got introduced to sweet tea, Denny, was one of my closest family friends. His mom grew up in Lincolnton, Georgia. Very, very small, very rural. And she would make sun tea, where they take it and put it in the big jar and put it out on the porch in the sun. And I was expecting regular iced tea, so I took my normal, 2 or 3 packets of sugar and added it to what was already the sweetest iced tea that it has ever been known to man. It came out looking like honey. I mean, it was thick.
For a gallon, you put at least a cup, maybe a cup and a half of sugar. Sweet tea, sweet tea.
It's sweet tea. There's no messing around, right?
Right.
Well, that's great. We'll go check that place out there in, you said Childress?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go check it out. I'd love to hear if a driver gets by there. Send us an email or talk to your dispatcher. Let them know. We'd love to talk to you about that truck drive-through and what kind of tea you tried. But we still have a little bit of time here, Denny. If you had something else, you might as well get it in.
I kind of want to share this. I've got a friend. Actually, I went to high school with this friend. She lives in Helena, Montana.
Beautiful.
She moved there because she likes skiing.
Okay. Good spot to be.
Anyway, she took this like vacation of a lifetime. Left Helena, went down, I think, through Utah and Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, made it down to Texas for the big eclipse, and then over into Louisiana and Arkansas. And I mean, made a great big circle. She actually traced a bunch of the Route 66 as much as she could stay on it. Took all the photos. Anyway, but towards the end, she posted this on Facebook, and I just want to share it with you. I'm just going to read what she wrote, if that's okay, Marcus.
Perfect.
I've shared the road with all types on this trip, and some of the bad attitudes I've seen distress me, specifically the attitude towards the truckers and big rigs. People, the semis are not the adversary. They are people working. If their wheels are turning, they're at work, not going to work, not coming home, not heading out to eat or play, working, and they deserve respect. I found them not only generally to be the most skillful drivers, but also some of the most courteous. If you treat them right, they treat you right. I found this to be solid. With long periods on the highway or in road construction, you get to recognize each other. The big rigs tend to be distinctive, and there weren't a lot of other red Subarus with Montana plates, so drivers became familiar. The courtesies are simple. Give them room. Don't tailgate or draft behind them uphill, or don't crowd. Stay out of their blind spots. For example, if you're going to pass them, go ahead and get on with it. Always remember that they can't do anything quickly. If darting, dashing, or squirting becomes, I don't know what squirting is, but
we won't
use
ask.
Your imagination, becomes necessary, you have to do it because they can't. Use your freaking turn signals. If you give notice, they'll usually help you if you've done the other things above. Yes, some drive like bullies, but I saw 4 more of that from drivers of big pickups. Without the truckers, there'd be nothing on store shelves. On US 12 through Idaho, I didn't see a semi for 2 days, and you do not want to pay the prices I saw in those stores. The truckers are working folks, and they deserve your courtesy and a little fucking respect. They're bringing you stuff.
That's a good sharp F-bomb to crisp that off there at the end and really drive the point home.
She said
I love
not
it.
Me.
I love it. No, it's great. Drive that point home because it's very well written and it holds true, Denny. I mean, you've got the experience out there. You know what it's like. I do to a much lesser extent, but just in the process of doing these podcasts that we do, I've gained so much respect that I already had a pretty high degree of respect for truck drivers. I grew up around them. I've been around guys. You know, my uncle owned a truck and my other uncle drove it when I was young. I've been around these guys. I have a tremendous degree of respect, but I've got so much more now that I've met so many of them. I've gotten a little peek behind the curtain in their mind, and what you find is exactly what was just written and read there. These are great people. Salt of the earth folk would give you the shirt off their back if you were in trouble. And, all we got to do, being courteous on the road is not hard. If you treat every one of these guys out there like you would treat your own mother in a vehicle if you were passing her on the side of the road, or, maybe if they're pulled over, you give them some room. You don't crowd them. You wouldn't tailgate your mom. You wouldn't squirt in and around your mom. I'm sorry for saying that, but I had to. It's just one of those things where the respect should be dialed up from the rest of us that are out there on the road because, yeah, they take up a little bit more space, and, yeah, they might not be able to go as fast as the rest of us, but without them, we're screwed. I mean, just the whole world is on fire within 3 days without these guys. So have a little bit of common courtesy out there on the road. Give them some room. Be careful and understand, like your friend there said, they're working. None of us are out there working when we're driving up and down the interstate. Come on now. You don't want to be out there any worse than they do. So, yeah, very, very poignant little piece there. I'm glad that you brought that up because I echo every single sentiment in that speech there.
I agree. I can't dispute anything she said.
No.
I agree with every bit of it.
So pull into Childers, get yourself a tall, cool iced tea, strawberry flavored if you're taking my advice, and just chill out a little bit. Just take the aggression down. As I get older, I notice that when I get in my vehicle to go someplace, I'm less and less aggressive every single day, regardless of how quick I've got it or how fast I need to be there, how late I am, whatever's going on in my day. And it wasn't like that. I will admit it wholeheartedly, Denny. At 25, I was like every other asshole out there on the road. And I know that, and I think that's one of the reasons that I try to make such a point to be as courteous as I can be now, because I'm trying to make up for all that lost time when I was a young idiot. All right, well, I think that's about all. You got anything else for us? We could probably wrap this episode up and put a bow on it.
All I'd say is, stay safe out there, drivers. Somebody wants you at home safe.
Amen to that. And if that's not the case for you, we here on the podcast want you home safe. H&M, everybody wants you home safe. So do be careful out there. Keep the shiny side up. And is it the rusty side down or the dirty side down?
I always heard the dirty side down and keep between the ditches. We're 10-10 on the side.
I love it. And of course, what would we be unless I told you stay fresh, cheese bags? We'll see you next week. It's the H&M Trucking Podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for listening to the H&M Trucking Podcast. Please leave a review, subscribe, and connect with Marcus over at the H&M Trucking social media channels. And if you're considering a job at H&M, find us at hmtrucking.com. Until next time, stay safe and ahead of the curve drivers.